You know those places, right? The ones that just feel heavy, like the air itself is thick with stories.
Definitely. Places where something intense happens.
Exactly. And tonight we're diving into one of the most famous, or maybe infamous, Waverly Hills Sanatorium in Louisville.
Ah, Waverly Hills.
Yeah.
Yeah, the history there is potent.
Potent is a good word. Early 1900s, tuberculosis, just waves of suffering and death. It's almost purpose-built for ghost stories, isn't it?
It really is. And, people have this tendency, almost a need, to attach those strong emotions, that trauma, to the physical place.
So places like Waverly become magnets for these kinds of narratives.
Precisely. The history fuels the folklore.
And we're zooming in tonight, like laser focus, on one specific spot inside room 502.
Room 502. Okay, that one has its own particular legends.
It does. And our way in, our source material for this deep dive, is an episode from a podcast called Shiverstream Stories, The Waverly Haunting.
Shiverstream Stories. Got it.
The episode itself is just called Room 502. Very ominous.
Sounds like they know how to set a mood. It's interesting to look at how they build the story, what they choose to focus on.
Totally. They start with the foundation, the backstory, a pretty tragic one.
Often the case with these hauntings.
Yeah, they talk about this local legend, a nurse back in the 1930s. Story goes she became pregnant, felt abandoned, and, well, she hanged herself right there in room 502.
That's such a powerful, sad image. Despair, isolation. It taps right into the core emotions that often underpin ghost stories. Creates this immediate sense of sorrow tied to the room.
Definitely sets a somber tone. But then the Shiverstream Stories episode takes this sharp turn, brings it right into like modern day horror.
Oh, how so?
They describe this incident from just a couple years ago, 2022. 4 amateur ghost hunters.
Okay, the classic setup.
But they weren't just exploring, they were live streaming the whole thing, probably trying to get famous, lots of nervous jokes, that kind of vibe.
Ah, the live stream angle. That adds a whole different dynamic, doesn't it? That real-time element, the idea that others are watching, potentially watching something awful unfold.
Exactly, raises the stakes. So they make their way through Waverly, all bravado, until they reach room 502.
And let me guess the time.
You got it. According to the podcast, it's 3:03 a.m., bang on the witching hour.
Of course it is.
And then, suddenly static, the live stream just cuts out. Dead air. And here's the really chilling part of their story. None of those 4 people ever seen again. Alive.
Wow, okay, so complete disappearance.
Complete disappearance. They apparently found some corrupted footage later, useless. And one body was eventually discovered, but with this detail that just...
What was it?
The podcast claims the body's mouth was sewn shut from the inside.
Okay, wait. Sewn shut from the inside.
Yeah, I mean, how is that even possible? It's such a specific, gruesome detail.
That is deeply disturbing. It moves way beyond just a ghost story. That feels ritualistic, symbolic, silencing them, preventing them from talking about what they saw. It's horrifying.
It really sticks with you. But the podcast doesn't stop there. It's like, okay, the amateurs vanished, now what?
Right, there has to be a follow-up.
Enter Maria Jensen. A month later, apparently. She's presented as this lone, experienced paranormal investigator, the pros stepping in where the amateurs failed.
The classic narrative move.
Yeah.
The seasoned veteran versus the rugless youths. It lends a different kind of credibility, or at least a different perspective.
Exactly. And her experience as told by Shiverstream Stories is just relentless. She gets there, finds room 502 unlocked.
Which is weird in itself, right?
Yeah.
In a place like that.
Right. First red flag. Inside, she finds 4 chairs, arranged in a circle.
4 chairs, echoing the 4 missing people. Okay, that's creepy. Ritualistic again.
And on one chair, a single tape recorder.
Ah, the tape recorder.
Yeah.
The hope of capturing EVPs?
Yeah.
Right. Direct evidence. Classic ghost hunting gear.
Yeah, totally. And the podcast says she played it back. What it supposedly captured was this distorted voice whispering.
What did it say?
One by one, they followed me in. And now, they'll never leave again.
Oh, that's chilling. Possessive, territorial. Yeah, it's so ambiguous. Who's me? Who are they? Your mind just races.
Exactly. But it gets worse for Maria. According to the story, she decides, okay, time to leave. But she can't.
What do you mean she can't?
Every hallway she takes, every corridor, it just loops her right back to room 502. Like the building itself won't let her go.
Wow. The spatial distortion trap. That's pure psychological horror. Losing control, the environment turning against you, creates this intense helplessness.
And then the modern twist. Her phone starts going off. Text messages.
From who or what?
Unknown number. Each message just says, get out of my room. over and over.
Okay, that's genuinely unsettling. Using technology like that, it makes it feel so invasive, so personal. It bridges the gap between the supernatural and our everyday lives.
Totally. And as if that wasn't enough, she starts hearing things. Soft thumping first, like bare feet upstairs,
Well,
then sobbing, just heartbreaking sobbing sounds.
oh, yeah.
And then the sobbing stops, and it's replaced by laughter. Cold, chilling laughter.
Oh no, that sequence. Footsteps, sorrow, then that empty laughter. That's designed to just shred your nerves. Each sound worse than the last.
Apparently, that was the breaking point. The podcast says Maria, in total desperation, smashed a window in room 502 and just jumped 2 stories down.
Jumped. Did she?
Survived.
She survived the fall, yes. Physically injured, but alive. But here's the kicker, the really haunting part of the story.
Why?
According to Shiver Stream Stories, Maria Jensen never spoke again.
Ever.
Just complete silence afterwards.
Wow. Just silence. That implies a level of trauma beyond words, doesn't it? Something so terrifying it literally silenced her. Makes you wonder what she truly experienced in those final moments before jumping.
Exactly. It leaves so much unsaid, which is almost scarier. So the podcast episode leaves you hanging with these huge questions. Like what happened to the other 3 live streamers?
Right. Are they still in there somehow? Is room 502 not just haunted, but something else? Something that collects people. The podcast even asks if you can still hear their screams sometimes.
Ending on those open questions is really effective horror storytelling. It lets the listener's imagination fill in the terrifying blanks, keeps the mystery potent.
And they finish with this warning, you know. If you ever go to Waverly Hills and you find the door to room 502 open, stay away.
Because
They claim the room remembers, and it waits. Classic horror sign-off leaves you with that little shiver.
it personifies the room, makes it an active, malevolent entity. That's a powerful concept in haunted location stories.
So that's the narrative presented in Shiver Stream Stories, room 502. Quite the tale.
Definitely a compelling and disturbing story they've woven together.
So for our deep dive now, let's try and unpack this a bit. What makes this story, and maybe stories like it, tick? Why do they get under our skin?
Well, let's look at the elements they used, the construction of the fear. How do they build that suspense and dread so effectively? What psychological buttons are they pushing?
Like that detail about the sewn-shut mouth. It's so graphic, so specific. Why is that kind of image so powerful in horror?
I think it taps into really primal fears. The fear of being silenced, obviously. Being unable to scream, to cry out, to tell your story.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And there's a violation to it, isn't there? A desecration. Plus, the impossibility of it from the inside. It has this layer of the uncanny, the deeply unnatural. It suggests a force that defies normal understanding.
And what about the timing? 3:03 a.m. It feels almost like a cliche, the witching hour. But it still works, doesn't it?
It does. These liminal times, the dead of night, they're culturally ingrained as periods when the veil between worlds is thin.
Right.
Even if it's familiar, invoking that specific time instantly signals this is when the bad stuff happens. It's a narrative shortcut to unease.
And the looping hallways, Maria being trapped, that feels like a nightmare everyone's had in some form.
Absolutely. The loss of control, the loss of bearings, the environment becoming hostile. It plays on fundamental fears of confinement and helplessness. When you can't trust space itself, where can you turn?
Nowhere, apparently. And the texts, "Get out of my room." That's such a modern fear mixed with the old haunting tropes. Does it make it scarier or just different?
I think it makes it scary in a different way, a very contemporary way. It breaches that barrier between the haunted house over there and our personal connected lives right here.
Like it can reach you anywhere.
Exactly. Our phones are extensions of ourselves. The idea that something other can infiltrate that space, use that technology against us, that's a uniquely 21st century kind of dread.
So when you put it all together, Shiver Stream Story seems to be using this mix, right? The classic ghost story elements, tragic past, spooky time, isolated place, but layering on these modern fears and really visceral, disturbing images.
Precisely. It's a blend designed to hit multiple fear triggers. The historical dread, the immediate physical threat, the psychological manipulation, the technological intrusion, and it deliberately leaves that central mystery unresolved.
Yeah, the fate of the live streamers, Maria's silence, the true nature of whatever's supposedly in room 502, the ambiguity is key.
It ensures the story lingers, doesn't it? We're left to ponder the unknowns.
Which kind of brings us to a final thought, maybe for you listening. Why do stories like this, about places like Waverly Hills soaked in tragedy and death, why did they grip us so much?
Yeah, what is it about them? They disturb us, but we're also drawn to them.
Is it just morbid curiosity? Or maybe trying to grapple with death and suffering from a safe distance? Or is there something, I don't know, deeper going on?
It's a great question. Why do these narratives persist? Why do they hold such power over our imagination long after we finished listening? Something to think about.
Please subscribe to our channel. Your support motivates us to create even more great content for you. Thank you so much.